Good morning, everybody. Thanks for joining this event on the IUCN Green List Development Plan. We will start now. We have a 1-hour event on the development plan of a Green List. As you may know, the Green List, IUCN Green List of Protected and Conserved Areas, is a program of certification for protected and conserved areas that are effectively managed and fairly governed. And we want to increase this number of protected and conserved areas effective by 2030. And that's exactly the mission and the goal of the development plan with the next decade in mind. So this presentation is online and also in person. We have different speakers. We would like to provide you a global overview of the Green List Development Plan, and then we will highlight some key examples of action under implementation through some projects we have currently in different regions and countries. Yeah. So without any delay, I will give the floor to Marco Kings, Vice Chair for Management and Science within the World Commission on Protected Areas. Mark is speaking from Australia, and James Harcastle from IUCN GPAP program on Protected and Conserved Area will join later. So Mark, the floor is yours. Thanks for joining.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Thierry. I'm not sure, can people see the slide deck? I can't see it on my screen.
Yes, I will change the slide for you if you want. Just tell me.
Okay, so if we could go to the first slide. I think what we recognize that, we need to do much better if we're going to bend the curve on biodiversity loss. While we're making progress, we need to improve this substantially. Can you go to that, just work your way through this? Sorry, Thierry. So, and the next, thanks. So if we're going to bend the curve, then we need to, we need to set ambitious targets, and they are being set through the post-2020 framework, through things like the High Ambition Coalition and the 30 by 30 target. Next, thanks. But one element of that ambition is for quality as well as quantity, and that's where the Green List comes in. Next, thanks. So the Green List ambition is to be a catalyst for promoting quality, so that the standard can provide guidance on equitable governance and effective management, and the standard alone can be used by anyone without input from IUCN. It's defining what we mean by quality in protected areas. Next, thanks. One example of that from Mexico is where in their management effectiveness system, they use the Green List standard to underpin their evaluation system, which is applied to their entire federal system of protected areas. Not all are participating in the Green List, but the standard is influencing the whole system. Next, thanks. But there's also the certification program that provides a means for sites to commit to meeting the standard with independent verification that they have done that. Next, thanks. So those two mechanisms can work synergistically. Next, thanks. What we need, though, if this is going to happen, is a critical mass of both adoption of the Green List standard and implementation of the Green List program to have truly global influence. Next, thanks. So that leads us to the goals of the Green List program that are expressed in the development plan. The first is to have the Green List standard recognised globally as the definitive standard for quality in protected area and conserved area governance and management. Secondly, to apply it broadly through the nomination of sites on the Green List and the use of the Green List standard, with many of those countries actively engaged in using the standard. And thirdly, to engage the most significant protected and conserved areas in terms of their biodiversity values, so that these will have a powerful catalytic effect. Next, thanks. The desired outcomes then that flow from that is to have that recognition of the standard through things like the post-2020 framework, to have it included as an indicator on progress towards that. And in terms of scale, then, to have more than 100 countries representative of all the regions of the world actively engaged in the Green List program. And we like to set a target, and I think it makes sense to set the target in terms of the area of protected and conserved areas engaged. And here, if we were aiming for a target of 30 to 50%, then it's going to have a major influence. We'll come back and talk a little bit more about that in a minute. Next, thanks. Just an example of that in terms of how we can have influence in my country, Australia. This is the distribution of protected areas by size. Most of them are very small, and that's not atypical of other countries. If we were going to get just 10% of those protected areas in the Green List, it would be over 1,300. But if we engage just 100 of the largest 300 areas, we would achieve 33% of the estate. If we engaged all of the natural terrestrial World Heritage sites, we'd get 4% of the entire protected area estate. So by targeting effectively, we can have that catalytic influence. Next, thanks. So the priority actions are to define that ambition, and we'll need to do that at a regional level and match that to the requirements of those sites. Next, thanks. And secondly, to engage the areas that are most important for biodiversity. And we can use a variety of measures such as key biodiversity areas, or I think Peter will be talking about World Heritage sites later. So I guess the key thing of the ambition is really to have that catalytic influence to promote quality in protected areas. So thanks very much, Thierry.
Thanks, Mark. Yeah. So the next type is about the description of some key directions and components of a development plan. I will provide you just a short introduction regarding the overall development plan strategic direction before having some detailed presentation on some key aspects of the development plan regarding the experts, practitioner, implementing partners to be involved, but also the knowledge development, which is absolutely key for the Green List, and the integration of the standards within national, regional, and global policies. Yeah. Financing mechanisms also will be presented by James later, and the capacity development. Yeah. So I will just start briefly to present you the pathway of change and the strategic directions, the key components of a development plan. The development plan itself is based on the theory of change, as you can see on the graph, the figure. And we aim by 2030 to conserve effectively nature and support resilient communities and landscape to help them also to cope with global changes, like climate change in particular. And this vision aims to support the CBD 2050 vision, living in harmony with nature. We would like to achieve some key expected outcomes regarding the PCA, the protected and conserved areas, to have healthy people, healthy PCAs, and healthy planet. The three of them work together, in fact, and these expected outcomes are clearly designed and inspired by the premise of Sydney. And for that, we have defined and proposed some key outputs to be achieved by 2030 to generate this catalytic effect, not only in the green listed sites, but also on all PCA systems globally. That's the main ambition of a green list here. Some example of the key outcomes we would like to achieve, as you can see in the figure. Accredited experts, we have 600 experts. We would like to have at least 1,500 YETS experts and in 100 countries at least, yeah. But also to engage, as mentioned by Mark previously, the most significant PCAs worldwide for conservation and biodiversity and culture also values, yeah. We would like also to generate new and additional resources to support the Green List and support the sites committed to the Green List standard. And we would like also by 2030 to have the Green List as a universal standard for the effective PCS globally, but also at regional and national level. Regarding the structure of the development plan, we have defined three pathways of change. The first one is about the core components of a green list. As you can see in the figure, we have the sites and countries to be committed and involved in the process. Also the experts and the partners that support the green list at different levels. And the integration of the standards into the national framework and the global biodiversity framework that is currently under discussion at global level. Then, if we want to really scale up the Green List at the level of ambitions that we want to achieve by 2030, we need some key enablers. These enabling conditions are the policy advocacy activity that we are currently developing for the CBD, but also at regional level. Communication is absolutely strategic and crucial for the development and scaling up of the Green List also. And financing, we need to find new financing model to support the process and the PCAs engaged in it. And the last part of the development plan is about the capabilities. It's a kind of toolbox of a Green List, which is the main added value at site level for the site managers. I mean, the knowledge development activities that we will develop, also the data management, gathering all the information related to the site, the experts engaged in the Green List, and the performance monitoring, how to support to improve the management effectiveness as well as the governance of each site involved in the process. Based on this 9 strategic direction, we need to implement all of them in parallel. We have defined 33 activities, very concrete and operational, that you can see now in the figure. Just as an example, we had the description by Mark about the global ambitions that we are defining. We need also to define some local, national, regional strategies to develop a green list in every country that we would like to involve. We also would like, and it will be presented just after by Julia Miranda, to provide IUCN recognition to all the experts and donors committed to the green list system. For the enabling condition, we, as a very important step in the next month, to integrate the green list as a way, as a matrix for the PCAs under the GBF, the Global Biodiversity Framework, but also at regional level and national one. Design a communication plan is absolutely crucial also to scale up a green list, not only at global level, but also regional one, having a network of regional communicators. Yeah. Financing model, business model of a green list is also completely new to support the program globally, but also the PCAs engaged in every country. Last but not least, regarding the toolbox, so a capacity development program completely tailored for the green list system is also needed. So we would like to develop a learning center and exchange for the green list PCAs, at least for the experts, but also for the managers. Yeah. We have also Compass. We will have a presentation on Compass, which is the data management system we have specifically to share information among the community. And last but not least, the improvement of efficiency of the process itself and supporting the development of new technology for site managers in particular. And to highlight these different activities, we have selected 10 what we call flagship initiatives. The idea is just to showcase some strategic activities, quite structuring also for the development of a green list and for the community. And some of them are of really high visibility. For example, the Francophone Network, which will be launched officially today. And the idea is to promote exchanges among the practitioners and experts sharing the same languages. Yeah. So without delay, I will pass the floor to Julia Miranda from the WCPA to describe in more detail one of the strategic directions related to the community engagement here.
Thank you, Thierry. Well, this aspect is really important, but all the ones that just Thierry explained are important, and what is very interesting is that the Green List standard is now very developed, and the management plan show us the way to do it in a most complete way. So I am going to speak about the experts, practitioners, and the partners, which I be part of the discussions and the deep developing of this matter. Which goals do we have? As Thierry said, we want to create a real active network of experts, practitioners, and partners that support the activities of the Green List. We want to provide them with systematic accreditation and incentive the programs and partnership models in the countries. As he said also, right now we have more or less 600 people involved in the initiative, but we want by 2030 to have between 1,500 or 3,000 people, experts, involved in 100 countries at least to implement the Green List. Right now, a little bit more than 60, right? So we want to achieve this goal by 2030 of 100 countries involved and engaged. At least 120 partners. They are so important. They are contributing right now to finance, to support, to give capacity building. They are very important for the program. So the eagles that are the experts in protected areas that are working in each country. We need to strengthen the communication among the eagles, and we really want to promote the communication among them. And it is very important that the eagles, the members of the eagles in each country, are recognized and valued. So that is an important goal and the way to achieve those goals. The actions. We need to identify different types of experts, not only in biodiversity, different types of experts that are going to be crucial as eagle partners, as eagle groups, and people that implement also the Green List in the countries. We need to go for them, to actively engage and proactively engage those experts. We also need to support the networks, as I just said, maybe by regions, maybe by ecosystems like the Amazon eagle groups that are already going into a network, but also in the whole region in Latin America, for instance, we would like that the eagles speak to each other and share good expertises, good actions, and different experiences in the countries. As we said in other moments, each country is different from the other one, but we share some common things. So these groups can really enrich their knowledge if they share their experiences and they build a real network. And finally, provide the IUCN recognition of all the existing experts who have demonstrated competence in Green List protected areas, and also the partners. We are, as I said, receiving strong support for the Green List. I think everybody realizes how important is management effectiveness and how important is the Green List to improve the management effectiveness in the countries. If one country doesn't have a Green List areas, can look as an inspirational achievement to go to have their protected areas in the Green List. So if we work together, this is going to be a real strategy for the whole world. Thank you, Thierry.
Thanks, Julia. The next strategic direction to be presented is about Compass System, which is a central knowledge and communication hub to the service of the expert and site managers. We have Naomi Kingston from the UN Environment Programme, the UCMC based in Cambridge. Naomi, the floor is yours here.
Thank you, Thierry. Hopefully you can hear me. Good morning to everyone in Marseille and colleagues online. I am having some connectivity issues, so hopefully I won't drop out and you'll be able to hear me. I can't actually see the slide, so I'm going to guess that we're on the one that shows the, oh, we're not. Okay, so the Compass interface, this slide just shows the Compass interface. Compass is the central repository for all of the documentation, so all of the data and information relating to Green List, the Green List process, sites as they go through the process, and as a central hub for the Green List community. I guess a lot of what I'm going to say mirrors what Julia's just said. The system was designed when the Green List process was much smaller, and it's not quite fit for purpose now. So it's very useful for capturing information, but it's less useful for pulling information out. And also, as the number of users increase and those user requirements change, it's less fit for purpose. So the focus here is to really enhance the accessibility and the usability of the system. So talking to all of the users right through the whole life cycle, considering what information is being captured in the system, what format it's in, the ease of use for the people putting the information in, also what information needs to be extracted out and making that useful. So do we want to look at trends? Do we need to extract data in a different way? All of this needs to be worked through. So there will be a kind of a scoping analysis to see what people use the information for and how the system could be designed to make that process and that user journey as simple as possible. There's also a lot needs to be done to connect with other platforms. There is a little bit of duplication now between various systems we have, the various global databases. So a big focus will be making sure that all of these systems are talking to each other, that they're all interoperable, there isn't duplication, and information and data flows between these global databases. So I guess it all comes back to this user requirements, making sure that the full user journey and the life cycle of the data is managed in a coherent and a sensible way. And not just for the process of designating sites or certifying sites as green listed, also right through once they are green listed and they're maintained and keeping a track of all of the information about them for years and years into the future, and it's all easy to get at. So there is a bit of work to be done here, but it is all it's all straightforward. The system can do it. We just need to tell the system what it needs to do. Thank you. Hopefully you heard all of that. I'm not sure if I was talking online for the whole thing. Thank you, Thierry.
Thanks to you. Yeah. Applause. So an important chapter also regarding the Green List is about the integration of standards. We aim for the Green List to become a universal standard, a Rosetta Stone for the conservation, so measure the effectiveness of protected and conserved area. And we have Stephen Whitley with us from the World Conservation and Protected Areas. Stephen is speaking from Canada. It's very, very early morning. So thanks a lot for joining today with us, Stephen.
Good morning to you all online in Marseille from Canada. I'm going to talk about the integration of the standard with many other tools that exist to look at management effectiveness and protected area outcomes. First of all, it's important to note that this is a standard. It's an IUCN Council approved standard. It was built on peer-reviewed work. It went through lots of thought, lots of testing. And we hope that it exists as a global benchmark, which we can use to compare against the many other PAME or protected area management effectiveness tools which exists. The Green List is the most comprehensive of these. So it, as Terry mentioned, it can be a Rosetta Stone. It can allow comparison and benchmarking between these different management effectiveness tools. We don't think this is perfect. We're committed to revising the standard periodically to make sure that it is the best that it can be. We will adapt it, make sure that it's applicable to a wide range of situations, and that it is linked to and inclusive of many of the PAME tools as possible, because we really want to facilitate a wider application of this standard. Currently, most countries, most agencies get involved with the Green List with the idea of certification. But we think the standard has far broader application beyond certification. Yeah, yes, certification is important, and many protected areas want to be certified by IUCN, but the standard exists in its own right to help countries, agencies, organizations understand protected area management effectiveness that leads to conservation outcomes. Many of you are probably involved with the post-2020 agenda and the targets. You'll be familiar with target 3. There's a huge global momentum to up the ambition around protected areas and to protect 30%, at least 30% by 2030. IUCN's Commission on Protected Areas has developed a what counts document. That's on the WCPA website in French and English and tomorrow Spanish. And the Green List is a central part of that document as well. So we're looking overall, we're looking for integration with these other tools so that we can achieve the conservation outcomes. If you can go to the next slide, Terry. This is just illustrative of a comparison between many of the tools, or a few of the tools rather, that are out there. We have governance assessment, we have management effectiveness assessments, we have World Heritage assessments, and this simply shows the linkage between those various kinds of assessments and the Green List criteria. It makes the point that the Green List is comprehensive, and that we can compare these other PAME tools with the Green List as a standard or Rosetta Stone. And I'll just close with the idea that the Green List is strong in several areas. It's strong in governance, it's strong in management and planning, ecological design, but all these things are necessary to lead to conservation outcomes. And that's what this is really about. So I'll just reinforce, we're trying to make protected areas work so we have really strong conservation outcomes for nature conservation. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Stephen. Yeah. So we will move forward on financing mechanism with James Axel. James will join maybe later because he's actually in other pavilions. So the next point is about the development, the capacity development, which is absolutely key. It's one of the main added value of a Green List mechanism to support the PCA managers to achieve the standards. I will let the floor to Marie Fishburne from IUCN working program on the program and also on Panorama Solution. So we have a clear link between the Green List and Panorama Solution through this capacity development and solution system. Marie.
Thanks, Thierry. Good morning, everybody. So the development plan that Thierry introduced, and that's the focus of this session, positions the Green List as a community of a learning network, or positions the Green List community as a learning network that is open to innovation and experience sharing. And you can see that reflected in the goal on this strategic direction around capacity development, solutions, knowledge exchange, and learning. So it's about designing and implementing a Green List capacity development program with accreditation or certification of Green List compliant materials and a full suite of resources and peer-to-peer learning networks. And we've identified three main needs, three different needs under this area of work. The first one is capacity development and training on the actual process of applying and going through the Green List and on the standard itself. And this is relevant to a smaller group of people, namely those who actually manage the process. at the level of jurisdictions and in the sites. So, for example, the site focal points, the mentors, the chairs of the Eagles would be the recipients of this type of training. Then a second need is around capacity development and learning on protected area management and governance generally in order to perform against the standard. And this is relevant to a wider group of people, so namely everybody involved with a particular site or a network of sites. And finally, a third need that really relates to the other two, especially the second one, is about identifying and recognizing existing training resources. There's a myriad of training materials and courses out there on all aspects of protected and conserved area management and governance. So making use of these and coming up with some sort of way of recognizing that they comply with the Green List standard. So there's a need for harmonization as well. And you can see these three key needs reflected in the priority actions that we've defined. And I just want to zoom in on action 25 in particular. This for us is really about activating a peer-to-peer learning network, building up a repository of data and case studies to support cross-site learning. Julia was also referring to that in her intervention. And we have this initiative, Panorama, Solutions for a Healthy Planet, that is directly integrated with the Green List. So all Green List candidate sites develop a solution case study that is published on the Panorama web platform. And there's a whole approach behind Panorama on supporting knowledge exchange based on existing good practices, based on solutions. And we really want to activate that link with the Green List. There are a number of needs and aspects that still need a lot of further thinking through around this topic. So there's, of course, a need of looking at the global level of ambition that was introduced in the beginning in terms of capacity development needs. So the level of ambition for the Green List globally defines the capacity development program that we have to deliver to enable people to run the process and to work towards protecting conserved areas improvement. There's also a need to actually assess the training needs, so to better understand who are the recipients, the target audience, and what are their exact needs. And then another key area of work is the sustainability of such a capacity development program. So establishing a business model for maintaining that in the longer term. And this is a segue into what James will talk about, who is now here on financing. Thank you.
Thanks, Maria. So we'll reverse with a previous presentation from James Hardcastle regarding the financing mechanisms for effectiveness of PCS. James works at the IUCN GPAP program. So James, the floor is yours.
Merci Thierry, bonjour tout le monde. Bien, ok. En español también, ¿no? Buenos días, hello. Finance, this is, in the middle of the presentation, but this is probably one of the most critical pieces for anything we do, no? You need the resources, you need the financing. And through our development plan for the Green List, through our ambitions, we're really setting the bar high for positioning our standard, positioning our programs, positioning the work we do in terms of the resources needed to implement it. And through our strategy, we are not looking how we can finance our Green List program, how we can finance our operations. What we're trying to position is how can our standard, how can our Green List program, how can our collective IUCN knowledge and support, how can that help leverage new and additional financing for protected and conserved areas that participate? So that's really what we're trying to, how can the Green List standard not cost you more time and effort and resources to implement, but actually help you leverage and achieve more investment from public or private sources to help you achieve that standard, to help you implement the actions that are required. And if we can do that, if we can offer something, say, use this, there can be benefits from this. They can be financial benefits, other benefits. Then I believe the financing of our own operations will naturally be supported because it's useful to everyone else. The demand will be there. The investment in our system to help others will be achieved. So that's what our development plan focuses on, is not how can we fund our Green List program, but how can we fund you to use the Green List program in a way that keeps it sustainable, makes it successful. And I think that's, you can see the actions on the screen. I'm sure you've seen a lot of PowerPoint screens. They're up there. One of the important things is not to try and invent new financing mechanisms ourselves, but to offer the Green List and the community that's using the Green List the chance to share successful practices and to exchange with other protected areas, protected area systems, authorities, investors, public and private, on ways that they can share that knowledge and they can exchange different technologies, different techniques. And as part of that, we're also trying to get some Green List facility that can back up and be able to start to allocate resources, ours and those of others, public, private, to protected and conserved areas that otherwise cannot even think about achieving our standard. And we're not talking about big projects. We're not talking about a huge banquet at the end of the year to have a big meal with everything you want to pick, but only once a year. What we're talking about is support is like, I just came from the Asia Protected Areas Partnership. So, you know, a bowl of rice a day, just that sufficient amount of sustenance that can keep you going, help the site achieve the activities it wants to do, but in a sustainable way. With one bowl of rice a day, you can still function. You're hungry, no, but you can still keep walking, keep moving. So that's the idea. We want to try and support the Green List community, not in a major way, but to try and share enough kind of bottom-up sources of funding that can just help the improvement, keep motivated, keep things going. So that's with our Green List facility. So putting all this together, we have the ambitious target of supporting the protected and conserved areas community to use our standard to help demonstrate impact, demonstrate progress, to be able to attract more resources from their own governments, private sector, development sector, philanthropy, you name it. But we need to shift the focus away from the minutiae and from us, and to have a broader ambition of how we can start to leverage the resources that are needed to achieve fair and effective conservation. Thank you.
We move to the following chapter of the presentation regarding the synergies on cross-cutting issues, because the Green List is a global program and it has a lot of connection with different issues. We will start with a marine perspective on the development of a Green List, and then the connection between Green List and World Heritage. The first presentation will be provided by Sue Wales from the WCPA, and the second one by Peter Shady from the World Heritage Program at IUCN. So, Sue Wales.
Good morning, everybody. Good afternoon. Very good morning to Stephen. Yes, so I'm going to talk about MPAs briefly. I suppose the question is, why do we need a special marine perspective on this? And I think it's largely because there is now, with the growing interest in the oceans, such an enormous MPA, Marine Protected Area community, which has its own constituency, organisations, networks, and it's not necessarily fully integrated with those working on terrestrial protected areas and more globally. We also, in the marine environment, there's enormous interest and concern at the moment about what success means and what types of MPAs actually work and are effective. So there's an enormous opportunity here for the Green List in terms of expanding its program and benefiting MPAs jointly. Next slide, please. So, of course, well established now, the Green List works for terrestrial, marine, freshwater, all types of MPAs and OECMs. We've now got 10 MPAs on the Green List, at least 21 taking part. I think a key point here to note is that what we need to get a lot of people in the MPA communities to understand is that the Green List can be used for all types of MPAs. They don't have to be fully or highly protected. As many of you know, there's quite a movement at the moment that MPAs don't really work unless they're fully protected and close to extraction. But of course, we're focusing on the IUCN approach under the Green List. Next slide, please. Just to give you an idea of the sites already on the Green List. Next slide. And some of the sites that are now candidates focus on particular countries where we're building up a lot of experience on this. And I think this is going to be something to look at as to how these countries can pass their experience on to other countries. Next one, please. So I just quickly want to run through some of the opportunities that we've been discussing. One of the key things is this issue of there being other partnerships and other means of communication with practitioners through the MPA networks. Things like the UN Regional Seas programs and the various regional conventions, the Global Ocean Alliance, which parallels the High Ambition Coalition. And just to flag up here, UNEP is now developing a new MPA toolbox and learning platform that will be launched within the next year, I think. So there are many other global and international opportunities where the Green List needs to be promoted. Regional jurisdictions, this is interesting because this is already being taken on board. Many of the regional marine conventions have now already, as it were, signed up to the approach of the Green List. And in the case of Western Indian Ocean, that's actually being developed as a jurisdiction, overriding jurisdiction. MPAs, right from very early days, it was seen that MPAs needed to be established as part of a network. An MPA on its own in the marine environment with currents and larvae and such a dynamic system, they very rarely work on their own. The issue of connectivity is vitally important, and they're increasingly, the whole approach of networks has been well developed now in the marine setting. And this gives big opportunity. Earlier on board. The other area where there's particular focus in marine, of course, is community managed areas with the development of the LMMA network, locally marine management areas, which is now well established with many sites established and being managed together as networks now. So this will need to be looked at. And then finally, there are an enormous number of tools and methodologies for assessing management effectiveness, PAIM assessment, being developed specifically for the marine environment. And I think some work to be done there in making sure that we see how these complement and can be used in the context of the Green List. Stephen mentioned this in his talk. Next slide, please. This is just to emphasize the LMMA aspect of MPAs and the importance of developing approaches to including LMMAs in the Green List process and adapting the standard for their use. And a novel program is underway at the moment to start doing this in East Africa. Just the Kenya example. Next slide, please. And then I just wanted to flag up the pilot case that we have of the California MPA network, which is now a candidate for the Green List. It was a very interesting process for the Green List Standard Committee in terms of ensuring that the indicators are suitably adapted for a network. This has been achieved now, and the MPA network is going through the process with its EAGLE established. And this has meant that we now have some preliminary guidance for multi-site applications and what this might mean that not only could be used for MPAs, but perhaps also for terrestrial networks in the future. Next slide, please. And just to mention some of these other marine initiatives and tools, I think it's worth pointing out there is another program. It's essentially an award system for MPAs, Blue Parks, The really significant difference is that it has no certification component. It is very much an award system. And what's been interesting, as it's progressively been revising its own criteria and approach to designated sites as blue parks, it has taken on board the Green List standard, and its 2020 revision makes a lot of use of Green List criteria and indicators. Secondly, just to mention, these are only two of the initiatives that one could mention. Flagging the MPA guide up, as that's going to be launched on 10th of September, Friday, virtually. And there's a big push to use this in some way to complement the Green List, and some work will need to be done to see how this will work. It focuses on describing levels of protection and stages of establishment of an MPA, with the hypothesis that these will predict the success and conservation outcomes of a site. So a number of MPAs are already involved in this. And another thing I just wanted to mention is that enormous development in marine monitoring at the moment in terms of measuring both outcomes, whether ecological or socioeconomic, and the importance of technology in this. And I think a lot of the concerns of the MPA community about the Green List have been that it's too complicated to measure outcomes in the kind of way that the Green List ideally requires. But I think that is going to change very soon as these monitoring programs come underway. So next slide, please. So just to finish with looking to the future, obviously, I hope that the Green List development plan will take some of these ideas into account. I think it's worth just mentioning because this is very preliminary, but we might want to think about IUCN WCPA producing some guidance for MPAs on management effectiveness assessment in the Green List in the same way as they produce guidance for the protected area management categories specifically for MPAs. This is based on that experience with that toolkit set of guidance. I think this would be a very useful thing to do. And thirdly, next year we have the international, again delayed, and I think there would be a good opportunity for holding a knowledge cafe at that event on the Green List and other aspects of pain. So thank you very much indeed.
Thanks a lot, Surya. We are just delayed a bit in your program, so just 8 minutes remaining before the end. So maybe I will ask to the speakers, the following speakers, to be short as possible. Yeah, two minutes maximum, please. Yeah. Next speaker is Peter Shadi about the linkage between IUCN Green List and the World Heritage Program. Yeah.
Yeah, hello, good afternoon, everyone. Nice to, I'm sorry not to be in Marseille and joining you in 3 dimensions instead of 2. I just want to run through, there are several flagship initiatives in the Green List Development Plan.
Sorry, there is some issue with the connection.
And I hope you're connected. It's a connectivity issue. Am I with you too?
Yes, yes, you can follow. Yeah, yes, thanks, Peter. Where are you?
Sorry. Yeah, there's a few connectivity issues, and you know, I just want to pick up on what Mark Hawkins said at the opening. You know, we really need a critical mass of adoption here for the Green List. You know, this isn't a process that can be driven completely top down. There has to be incentives. There has to be a kind of franchising approach to this this initiative and the standards being taken up. So why would we use World Heritage in this way to catalyse this action? These represent some of the best of nature, some of the largest protected lands and seas on Earth. 54 World Heritage sites are over 1 million hectares, and 42 countries have 10% of their protected area estate under World Heritage status. The premise here is that if they're the world's best places for nature, they should be deserving the world's best protection and management and governance, and we know that less than half of them are receiving that. The key thing here is the public imagination that can be triggered by these sites and the political leverage that we can get. So we think through World Heritage, we can really ramp up the energy behind the Green List. And, you know, we also have the opportunity to knit together some of IUCN standards and tools in a neat way. And 1 in 7 of the current Green List sites are already are World Heritage sites already. Next slide, Tiddy. I'll try and move quickly through these. World Heritage has tremendous reach and traction. So IUCN's World Heritage Outlook, which is the assessment of the condition and forward prospects for all natural World Heritage sites, was the highest rated research output in 2020 for IUCN. So this is right up there with the Green List in terms of our access and penetration to the global community. The diagram on the right shows the uptake of World Heritage Outlook through the website, which is pretty much global now. Next slide. So why would we do this? The aspiration of this initiative, this flagship.
We apologize with connectivity
Sites
issue.
committing to achieving and maintaining the Green List standards as exemplars of effective governance and management practices. And there's a series of specific objectives and targets which we've identified within that specific to World Heritage. Next slide, Tiddy. I think, yep, okay. The way which we want to do this is to really unpack this idea of a World Heritage and Green List initiative within the development plan. We'd look to focus on the World Heritage sites, a set of World Heritage sites which are both exemplars of good management practice, as well as the sites that are most in need of management support and improvement. And we'd work importantly through a strong communication campaign and awareness campaign to really scale this up and out. And this is where things like Panorama momentum. Slide, please. Next slide, Thierry, if I'm still with you. I think I've lost connectivity. Okay, we've skipped. No, we haven't. We haven't skipped. So this diagram, sorry, it's a bit clunky, the connection. This is really showing how we can knit together various IUCN knowledge products, you know, which are now really evolving into products which support assessment, products which support action on the ground, products which support the assurance of that action in terms of standards, and the awareness that we need to build around that. So here we see the normal pressure state response cycle that affects all of these protected areas, including World Heritage sites. We have World Heritage Outlook, which can really be our metric, our way of measuring success when we apply Green List standards on the ground, and then translating that success into communication through this influencing strategy. And we talk about this premise that if we can protect the best, we can save the rest. And I think that's how we need to really promote World Heritage and Green List. We have a great example here from the Wadi al-Hitan site in Egypt, which in 2020 shifted its assessment. If you go to the next slide, I don't know if it's animated anyway, the needle moves from 2017, there we are, to 2020 in from the good with some concerns to good, and it's directly attributable to the application of the Green List process to this site. And, you know, here's a powerful example of how we can show our Green List really improves the outlook of these places. We can then measure that, and we can then communicate that very powerfully. So we're excited, I think, Thierry, to move at this stage from IUCN providing, you know, soft guidance to much harder standards and seeking that compliance with standards that can really demonstrate that through World Heritage, and I think really catalyze the sort of momentum and drive that we need for the Green List rollout. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Peter. We're a bit delayed, in fact, in the program, so we will have to skip some presentations. So briefly, Daniel, if you could just provide some short presentation on the application of a Green List at regional level. We provide global orientation, but we need to adapt them at each region. So we have this example for Africa here. Daniel, if you want just to provide in a 1 minute short statement about the roadmap for Africa regarding the development of a green list. I'm sorry to press you, on time.
That's fine. You can skip 2 slides if you want. So I'll just be presenting briefly what we intend to do in terms of developing a regional applicable strategy for Eastern and Southern Africa, as well as Central and West Africa. We're going to develop one strategy, but with 2 components for each region, as these regions are fairly unique, and the process is going to involve a lot of stakeholder engagement and workshops. If you can just skip 2 slides quickly. All right, so while the slides are moving, the strategy is really going to have 3 main components, and you don't have to read all the text, but what it's saying is that we want to expand the Green List program across Africa in more countries and get more buy-in from sites and governments. We want to promote the Green List across the region. And then ultimately, we want to use the Green List to improve the management and governance effectiveness and conservation outcomes of protected and conserved areas in the region. You can move to the next.
Sorry for the connectivity issue again. So maybe we can finalize.
Loose ends together.
It's fine. You can go on. Yeah, I'm sorry, Daniel. We have some issues with the sound. Yeah, we cannot hear you. Yeah. I'm sorry. Yeah. So maybe we can just move on. We just have 2 minutes left. Thanks a lot, Daniel, for your presentation. And sorry, really, I apologize for these connectivity issues we're facing. Just to finalize and to conclude this presentation, the Green List Development Plan is on course, in fact. So we have several projects under implementation in different projects in different countries, in South America, Africa, and Asia. And we just would like to highlight some of them. Yeah, we have one in South America and Vietnam related to the tourism. And I'm sorry, Ulrika, because we will not have time to present it, but you will have another opportunity for this project to be presented in different pavilions this week. The same for Tech for Nature, also presented by Dev Ayama. Dev, I'm sorry, because we will not have time. You are not online. We have some issues with internet. And the last one is about the Trilateral Cooperation Project, which is an exchange between African countries, China and Germany. We had also from some presentation from our colleagues from Zambia, but unfortunately we have some connection issues with internet. They are all online. It will not be possible to provide this presentation. We apologize for that. And this PowerPoint could be obviously shared with you if you want. So we will give you an email to show it later. But thanks a lot for the speakers, online speakers and in-person speakers for your presentation on the development plan. As you have seen, we're just in the beginning, and we hope to have you on board for the next steps. Thanks a lot for your participation, and see you soon.